Welcome to the LongBox Paradox, episode 24. And going to start out today's episode talking about some news that broke from Bleeding Cool yesterday. I woke up yesterday and my messages were flooded with friends and people I associate with online hitting me with, hey, great news, Tom King is rumored to be off of Batman, removed. So quick thoughts on that. I've made no secret, I have not been a fan of his run on Batman, and I really hate his run on Heroes in Crisis. So while I'm happy he's removed, I know it sounds ghoulish that I'm cheering for someone to lose work, but as someone kind of put it to me eloquently, well, he has an exclusive contract, he's not losing work, it's more like he's just being moved to another project, and I'm sure DC has endless projects for him. So I'm going to start with my thoughts on this. It's probably about 25 issues too late. I think issue 50 or 51 probably should have ended his run. At that point, most people were burned out on it between the wedding, the hijinks that happened, where I will put a lot of the blame on DC's marketing team because they really made it seem like it was going to happen, and people really wanted it to happen. I haven't been a fan. I by issue 50, I was hate reading. I knew 2 months ahead of time that the wedding wasn't going to happen because I was tipped off by someone who had a friend who was in the editorial. So it was interesting watching speculators go nuts and crash and burn. So, going from there, kudos for DC kind of getting the message from fans. Again, probably too late. I understand there's a ton of people that love this run. And if you love it, I'm glad that you have something that you love. This isn't for me, and trust me, I understand where you're a fan of a creator and people despise them. I've been a Frank Miller fan for years through the bad and the great. So I understand where you're coming from with people just savagely hating someone that you like. And again, I don't think as a writer he's a guy built for long runs. It's just not in him. And I felt kind of good going through the comments and Twitter mentions, seeing the amount of people who felt the same way that I feel about his Batman run. And it wasn't just me and my select group of friends that just absolutely hated this run. It was kind of eye-opening. So where do we go from here? So my first thought immediately was the writer of The Flash currently, Josh Williamson. He's going to be doing Batman Superman with Dave Marquez. I have loved his issues of Batman that he wrote for both The Button and The Price. Whereas we constantly have King deconstructing, Josh manages to put this emotion behind the character, and like in The Price especially, you kind of saw a bit of it from Batman, but I mean, Barry in that issue, actually, in those issues, was actually the one suffering, because this was right after Wally died. But I'd really like to see his take on it. But having said that, the game at this point is to boost Batman sales, bring in lapsed readers. So if I'm going to bring in Josh or another writer who isn't as well known, then I'm probably bringing in a superstar artist. I'm like swinging for the fences, superstar artist. Maybe not Jim Lee. I might try and talk Fabok into it, but I know Fabok's doing the Three Jokers. Even as a filler for those issues before you get your team in place, I keep hearing about this long-rumored Mark Silvestri Batman. I want to say 5 or 6 years now I've been hearing about this book. Get that in as the filler. Or if you go the other way, like I saw someone rumor like Warren Ellis and Brian Hitch coming in. Be interesting to see Warren Ellis's take on Batman, especially with Brian Hitch on art. Tom Taylor, I really don't want to see do Batman. I saw Bleeding Cool in the Day After article today talking about Bendis. Bendis needs to kind of keep to his own little corner of the world and not keep extending himself further, because I feel at Marvel he started doing too much and there were books kind of getting lost in the shuffle. Um, ooh, I know Remender would never do it, but I'd love to kind of see the kind of Batman that he would do. Zdarsky, after his Daredevil run, would be fascinating to watch. Also, Matthew Rosenberg, but they're all Marvel exclusives. Donny Cates, I think, is the one guy I don't want doing that, but good lord, if he wanted to do a New Gods, I'd be all over that shit. So yeah, in the comments on this, go ahead and tell me who you'd like to see on this book. I'm really curious. I will say also, I don't want any more Scott Snyder students on this book. I like James Tynion, but I always feel Scott's students are kind of doing pale imitations of Scott. So I'd like to hear a different voice. And not so much a different voice also, like I don't need the Bat God. Grant Morrison did the Bat God. I don't ever need to see the Bat God again because we already got it. I don't need it. Jeff Johns even kind of did the Bat God, and he always laughed that he didn't like the Bat God. But no matter who they put on, they have to have a great named artist with the said writer to really push the sales, to really bump it up higher, especially if they ever want to get it back to being a 100K book. So I was actually kind of nice about this time. No rant. I'm saving the rant next week for Heroes in Crisis because I already know it's just going to be like Mike Tyson using my balls as a speed bag. Anyway, first book we're going to be doing this week is Detective Comics number 1004. We find out the secret backstory of the Arkham Knight. So I'm figuring by now everybody knows it's Astrid Arkham, character we never met before. So in this, Jeremiah Arkham, I think it's Jeremiah in this, they didn't really say. Anyway, talks about how he had met another doctor who came to Arkham named Ingrid. And the two of them fall in love. The super criminals there seem to really like her and her personality. And they get married, and he impregnates her, and she refuses to stop caring for the subjects. And during the peak of her pregnancy, the new inmates coming in go on a rampage, and she gets trapped, and she's going into labor. And this whole surreal scene happens with the Joker, Harley Quinn, Two-Face, Poison Ivy deliver the baby. And Joker smacks Astrid on the ass, and one of the inmates gets one of Batman's stray batarangs and manages to throw it through this curtain of mud from Clayface, and it cuts her artery in her throat and kills her. Astrid's born, and Arkham decides that he's basically going to homeschool her in the Arkham Asylum. And Joker is like her uncle and tells her stories at night. She's very curious, and she manages to find video and the information of how her mother died, and how basically, because Batman's Batarang was there, she blames him. And has this weird kind of alternate origin like Batman, where like this tragedy causes her to hone all her skills, except in an asylum that she treats as a castle and is kind of crazy. And Jeremiah had kind of fed into her Batman hate because it's easier for her to hate him than the inmates. So she kind of treats Batman as a curse on the city. So basically, the whole issue is basically this origin. It's an interesting origin. It's not how I would imagine it, and now she's got Dr. Phosphorus waiting to burn everything down. And as that starts, you see Batman and Robin coming in, and that ends the issue. I kind of wanted a little bit more from this issue. I will say that that is a bananas origin for this character. Just crazy enough for an Arkham. Gonna give this a 7 out of 10. Collectability wise, this is definitely, I feel, a pretty good long-term spec. Possibly a 5 to 10 year spec. If you're collecting the book anyway, then you're good. The Mark Brooks variant is the one I picked up. For some reason, I just don't like the A covers for this recently. Also from DC Comics, doubling down this week, got The Flash number 71. As I noted earlier, I am a Josh Williamson fan, and him and Howard Porter have been knocking it out of the park. And this issue is part 2 of The Flash Year 1. Really digging that Josh is now putting his stamp on this run. And as last issue, Barry Allen has gotten the powers, and he accidentally goes into the future where he meets an older Barry. It almost is kind of like something you would have seen at Armageddon 2001, the story where the Wave Rider is making heroes see their future selves. So it's a post-apocalyptic world. This Barry Allen is grizzled. Kind of interesting outfit he's wearing. The world has been taken over, or at least Central City here, by the Turtle. Yes, the villain, the Turtle. And I like the idea that they've turned this kind of joke of a villain into something to be feared, and they show what he's doing to people. And in it, the future Barry Allen's like, I never took him seriously, and that was a mistake, and I should have solved this. And he starts asking the younger Barry, do you know this? Do you know this? Do you know this? And Barry's like, well, wait, if you know who killed my mother, and he's like, I can't talk to you about that. You read enough sci-fi, you know what happens. He ends up putting together the cosmic treadmill and sending him back to where he was supposed to go. And Barry comes back, he's like, well, I'm never running, I'm never doing this. Like, this is crazy. He's on his way to a date with Iris, and lo and behold, the Turtle's causing havoc, and Barry, no mask or anything, puts on a t-shirt and the crazy yellow boots and decides he's going to try and fight. And that ends the issue. Great imagery and dialogue moving the story along. Porter and Williamson are working in great synergy. Probably the best I've seen since Williamson was on Nailbiter with Mike Henderson. Just really great stuff. And like in a Flash book, you want that frenetic, kinetic movement going on in the book. There's some great splash poses that I really enjoyed. I'm going to give this an 8 out of 10. So far, so good. Pretty much the last issue in this, I'm putting at around an 8. Could be a 9. One read through so far. Really loving what I'm seeing, and I really feel like Josh and Porter are hitting their real stride, to put in Flash terms. And I'm digging it. Of course, yes, like I said, I want to see Josh do Batman. But, if he doesn't and he stays on this and keeps putting out the same quality, I will not complain. Because this is, since Wally left, this has been my favorite Flash run. And, well, we'll see what happens to Wally next week, because that's going to be a thing for me. So, going on to Marvel. New Agents of Atlas #2. So, right off the top, I'll just say the spec here is Swordmaster. He did not appear in issue 1. This is his first appearance, although he was on the cover of issue 1. The Ron Lim 1 in 25 variant is the one to pick up. Shouldn't be wildly expensive. Do expect, though, for these to dry up pretty fast. So it's more of meeting the team, their dysfunctions in this issue, and they're not being able to work together well. See a little bit more of Arrow, Wave. I forget the name of the one that can control lava. She's the Hawaiian one. Anyway, this issue, again, this is another super busy issue because there's so many characters, and I'm so unenthused about the villains in it. Cinder and the lava creatures. I guess they're from Muspelheim since it's War of the Realms. It kind of left a little bit lacking. Greg Pak's a good writer, but it just felt muddy between, and the art at some parts I thought got a little dicey. Again, though, it's a ton of new characters they're introducing and using. I'm sure the print run is not huge on this, which is why the 1 in 25 is the one to go for. I just wanted a little bit more out of this, and maybe once it hits its stride and they kind of get the group together, it'll be a little bit better for me. I can't give it more than a 5 or 6 right now, and it's mainly because it's just a little too busy in it. There's too much going on, and you don't get to spend enough time with the characters to actually make you give a damn. Although Cindy Moon seems to be getting the best kind of dialogue because she is a fan of the K-pop star, and she's like, "Oh, I saw you Madison Square Garden," and it's kind of a goofy thing in it, but it kind of made me laugh a little bit. Again, it just kind of left me a little underwhelmed. Not much really spec-wise that I'm really over the moon about this week. Other than that, again, if you have any comments you'd like to share, or again, who do you want on the Batman main title? Because it's going to be an important decision for DC to make, and let's just say their judgment at times has not been fantastic lately. There is a history of bad choices. I mean, honestly, like if I were going to put an artist on there and I know can't make their deadline, it would be Gary Frank. Gary Frank, to me, is one of the most improved artists over the past, 15 years. From where he started to where he is now as an artist, and the detail in his art, it's unreal. Alright, well, I am running out of time because I have to get ready to go to work. But I'd like to thank you for taking the time watching with me. Share, comment, subscribe, and happy hunting today. Farewell.